had a great weekend. I know it's Tuesday, but my weekend was a little longer because I spent several hours in the ER on Sunday night and seeing the doctor and doing labs and different things yesterday. I'm definitely feeling better, but not 100%. Keep me in your prayers. Just waiting to hear back from the doctor. What's going on? Is it appendicitis? Is it my gallbladder? But anyway, I'm on the mend. I'm learning to trust the Lord, and God's healing me. But today I want to talk about this devotional about Genesis chapter 18. And in this story, we hear about Sarah, about Abraham, and about this city called Sodom and Gomorrah. We also hear about these three angels that God sends to Abraham and reminds Abraham of God's promises and his faithfulness. But here we go. So anyway, a son is going to be promised to Sarah. And so the Lord shows up to Abraham when Abraham was sitting by the doorway of his tent. It was a really hot day, the Bible talks about. It was a hot day, so Abraham was trying to cool off. He was sitting by that front door of his tent when three angels showed up. And then, and so he recognizes them, he sees them, and he runs out, and he greets them, and then he goes in and he wants to prepare this meal for them. He goes inside and tells Sarah, Sarah, wake up, we have guests, we have visitors here. So anyway, the angels ask after the meal was made, where is Sarah? And they basically tell Sarah within a year, or they're talking up to Abraham, and they were saying, well, in a year's time, Sarah's going to have a son. And Sarah overheard what they were saying, and she laughed. Sarah laughed in disbelief, and then God reminds Sarah. He asks this question: is there anything that is too hard for God? And then Sarah denied that she laughed, but God saw that she laughed. And then anyway, after this encounter that they had with Abraham and Sarah had with these angels, then those two of those angels went on to the city of Sodom and Gomorrah, and one stayed with Abraham. So here's my application about some of these things today about the story and God's promises. Is what promises has God given you? That's a question I want to ask you today. What promises have God given you which he hasn't fulfilled yet? God hasn't forgotten his promises. He's going to fulfill those things. You learn to trust him. And I also put here, when God shows up, it's usually those times when we need him the most. I love it when God shows up. It's like there are unexpected moments and unexpected times. It's true, he's with us always, but there is a special moment when you know God's presence is with you and he's comforting you and he's leading you. It's an amazing, awesome time. But God shows up most of the time, those times when we need him the most. But God wants to do great things and has done great things in our life. Look back in your life. If you're going through a season right now where it's hard for you to believe, look back a month ago or a year ago and what God brought you through, what God did in your life. And let that be a reminder to you. Let that encourage you in your faith to be encouraged that God is the same yesterday, today, and forever. You know what God did for Abraham and Sarah, that God wants to do in your life. God wants to do miracles in your life. He's the same God. And he's no respecter of persons. The Bible talks about that God doesn't care if you're brown, if you're white, if you're black, if you're rich or poor. God's no respecter of persons. He loves you the same. He loves us equally. But a couple of the things from this story is I want you to see is that we need to change our mindset from a God that will do to the God, from the God who will do, not the God who might do. Let me say that again because I want to make this clear. A lot of us think, well, God might. We need to change our mindset. We need to start saying, hey, God will. And God promises us that in Genesis chapter 18. We see this, not, well, God might bring you a son, but no, God will do this in exactly 1 year. And what things does God want to do and will do in your life? And again, we need to change our mindset about those things. I also put here, God doesn't see limitations like we do. He sees opportunities. And so whatever obstacles you have in your life right now, they're actually an opportunity for God to be glorified and work in your life. That's amazing and awesome. And I put here that God sees and knows when we really don't believe or trust him. He saw this in Sarah. He saw that Sarah laughed and that Sarah didn't believe that she would have a son in a year. And but what what things are you laughing at God? You're struggling your beliefs, and and then a couple other things. I put what does God hear? What does God hear in our life? Does He hear wickedness? Does He hear disbelief? What things does He hear? He's listening to you and me. He's listening to not only our words, but He's listening to our actions and watching our actions too, and our words and actions showing that we don't believe God. And then the very end of the story with Abraham and God, they have this conversation, and Abraham is asking God if He would spare the city of Sodom because of um, uh, just spare the city. And so Abraham asked God, God, if there's 40 people there, would you not destroy it? If there's 30 people there, would you not destroy it? If there's 20 people there, God, will you not destroy Sodom? And then very last thing he asked God, if you find only 10 people there in the entire city, would you not destroy it? And I love this conversation. It shows us that we can go and have big asks from God, and just trust God. God's going to do what He wants to do, but He still wants to hear us and listen to our prayer. And so my prayer is this today: is that we will not laugh at the impossible things that God wants to do in our life, and that we will begin to trust God, and that we will remember that there is nothing that is too hard that God cannot do in our life, and also that we would go and have a serious conversation with God. God can handle our tough questions. He can handle our big asks, and when we go to Him in faith and learn to trust God. So anyway, I hope that encourages you today. I pray that you remember that you matter to me, but more importantly, you matter to God. God bless you, and have a great day.